Croeso I gyfarfod Cllr. Welcome to the Planning Regularly Licensed Committee of Wednesday the 20th of June. We're going to the agenda. Any apologies for our absence?
Chair, we've only got Councillor Gareth Lewis.
Thank you very much. Declaration of interest. Members are reminded of the personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. If you go on to note, members note that
Item 9, taxi licensing. Personal and prejudicial interest as I'm a proprietor and a taxi driver.
John, thank you. No, it's not the information. No, it is a proper report. So we're going to the open session now. This is item number 3, planning application P/17/0294. Goodwin, Cardiff Road, Triaris. Any questions of the members? Ernie?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, put it this way. I've been away quite a while, and maybe I've off the piste, for want of a better word. So don't know whether I'm the right word or what, but I will stay anyway to see if it all goes. But it's actually on this item, and I have a question basically. Is if 22 dwellings sold in the open market be reasonable for a Section 106 agreement amounting to £85,000. This is in relation to item 3.
Just to recap on the application. So at the time when it was presented to you in February, we had an application for 22 dwellings, which is along the layout there. And at the time, we'd started negotiations with the developer to try and seek affordable housing contribution, as well as a financial amount for the provision of a path on the end of the new road there to link to the park. At the time of the application, we asked for, as part of any application in this case, for some details on what they anticipate the development costs are. We used a Three Dragons toolkit, which is a viability tool to look at what the predicted costs are of the development, what they could expect to get back from the sales revenue, and then we can look at how much money is left over essentially to try and take towards planning obligations such as the affordable housing. At the time, the agent acting on behalf of the applicant didn't have any details back from their client to confirm what or to contest what we thought the development costs were. Ours are based on essentially default values which use the RICS guide, which is an assessment for typical building costs per square metre for a dwelling. What it doesn't do is take into account site-specific instances where, in this case, you can see in the section, it's quite a steep profile. So there's a lot of works involved in order to construct the access roads and get it up to the top level of the site. And also, while they're quite big houses, there's a lot of retaining works where you can see on the right hand side of the bottom section there, the ground floor of the first level is entirely retained at the back. So when you start to amount the costs of the retaining works to the roads, to the houses, the cost of the infrastructure as well, it adds quite significantly to the overall development costs. Now, unfortunately, when we first reported the application, that was essentially the...
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Can we ask you to stop recording, please? Thank you, David. Carry on, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so as I was saying, at the start, in the last application, when it was reported to you, you were presented with what is essentially the starting position. So normally when we get to the point of presenting an application recommendation, we've already gone through a process with the client, with the applicant, to negotiate what we can actually ask for. But in this instance, we didn't have a viability study from them to give more accurate information. So as a consequence of the last recommendation, which was to approve it subject to the 106, we started the process there to get the 106 formed, and it was at that stage they then submitted a viability appraisal. We checked the information on that provided. We were happy that the details they provided was a true reflection of what they were looking to do. You know, they were realistic, not exaggerated. And once we then put that back into the Three Dragons toolkit to assess in the same process as we did initially, it showed that actually there's very little viability in the scheme, and that if we actually asked for the 85,000 for the 106, that it would just take any viability left out of the scheme and it just wouldn't happen. So that's why in this instance we've now put forward the same recommendation to grant permission subject to the same conditions, but omitting the need for them to enter into a 106 agreement. I hope that sort of clarifies everything.
Councillor Chaplin.
Yeah, there was one letter of objection, and some of the reasons they gave was the closeness and proximity to the other properties and the elevation. And looking on that, one of the properties are quite elevated, and the concerns are that they are overlooking other properties. Have you taken that into consideration?
Yeah, that was considered in the first reporting of the application. In this section detail, if you see sort of in the middle there where there's a tree, originally there was a house proposed there, so it would have been, if I just, so the terraces at the bottom of the site, there was houses adjacent to them, and it was those residents that were raising concerns with the overlooking. And I tend to agree, they were quite close, quite elevated. So as a result of that, the developers omitted that from the scheme and rejigged the layout a bit then accordingly.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the proposed footpath, which now presumably isn't going to be built, was that just linking this new site to the park? So it's just providing access for these residents on this site to the park, is that correct?
Yeah, so just on the right-hand side of the screen there, where there's a turning area at the end of the road, we as a council own the land, I think, after that, and the intention was there to try and get a contribution to just forming like a stone or grit path, which leads then to the park. You still got the access, it just meant that the scheme would have been a bit more integrated, but unfortunately, because again, the same with the affordable housing, that knocks out the viability of the scheme as well.
Right, so the path won't now be done, so it's not going to fall onto the council to build this path instead of the developer?
Yeah, we're not seeking the path to be a financial contribution for the developer to put towards the path. If the council choose to do it themselves at some point, then there is that opportunity if there's funding from something else, but it wouldn't be sought from the developer in this case.
Any more questions? Any comments? As you can see, members, the recommendation is on page 6. It's for approval, subject conditions 1 to 18 in the original report. Can somebody move it first, please? Right, can we vote, please? Thank you, members. That's carried. Well, we move on to item 4 now on the agenda, which is application P/17/0350, land adjacent to Garth Cottages, Foreman Place, Gwyn's Close, Merthyrdale. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Can I move at this stage that a site meeting be convened? In view of the fact that I've called this application in, and there are 15 objections to the application, and I think it would be preferable to have a site meeting there for members to see exactly all the issues on site.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Members, can somebody second it, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Sorry, can we vote now, please? Thank you. That's carried.
I just need to know what officers they want.
Yeah, yeah. Can we get the list of the officers needed and certain? I know Clive with dates as well. So.
Yes, could I ask for Gerald Coughlin, who was one of the senior engineers who's been involved with particular aspects of this site, particularly in view of the line of the Nant Morlus to the land, and Martin Stark, the traffic management engineer, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Members, we obviously will get the suitable date for the site meeting, and we'll come back to you. Thank you. The next items on the agenda, from item 5 to item 8, are the information reports. So we will discuss that. Any questions or comments on that? Right, we'll go on to item 9 now, licensing. Delegate authority for taxi licensing, consider report from the Deputy Chief Executive. I'll hand over to Paul.
Thank you, Chair. The report that's brought before you committee today, it's to seek approval for a report to be made to full council regarding a change to our delegated authority for taxi licensing. Members will be aware that we issue licenses for drivers and operators. New applications insist on certain criteria such as advanced driving tests, or in the case of licensing a new car, we request that the vehicle is not more than 4 years old. Once we've granted a licence, the licence then can be renewed before expiry of the licence, and then those previous requisites are no longer required. So i.e. a vehicle that's been licensed can continue to be licensed even though it's over 4 years, and a driver who's seeking to renew his licence wouldn't be asked to sit a new driving test. Where a licence is not renewed before the expiry, it's then treated as a brand new licence, and therefore that criteria would be required, i.e. the vehicle under 4 years, or we'd require an advanced driving certificate. Case law in the matter of Exeter versus Sandal, it was held that council could grant an extension of a day for a renewal, so therefore we could go a day beyond, and up to 2 to 3 days if there is good reason. Anything beyond 2 to 3 days would require exceptional circumstances. Currently, the scheme of delegation of the authority is applications that are made for a renewal a day beyond the expiry. There's delegated authority to myself and the Public Protection and Housing Manager to grant that application. The report that's in front of you today is seeking to propose that that delegated authority be extended to 2 to 3 days. And anything beyond the 3-day period, which would be extraordinary circumstances, will go through the same procedure of going back before licensing subcommittee and full committee. Members who have sat on these type of applications previously will know that an applicant who is making an application late is unable to address the Planning and Licensing Regulatory Committee directly. So therefore we have to convene a subcommittee in order that representations can be made, and then that is brought before the Planning, Licensing and Regulatory for a decision. So it's quite a long-winded process. Sometimes this can lead to a considerable delay for an applicant in bringing it before the relevant committees, and obviously I'm mindful of members' time as well in bringing these applications. So the delegated authority request is for expediency for the council and obviously to benefit those individuals in terms of where late applications are made. Where it tends to go into 2 to 3 days will be over a weekend. So if, for instance, it's due renewal on a Thursday, if they came in on the Friday, then I have delegated authority. But if they had left it over the weekend and come in on the Monday, then that would trigger having to go through the current process. So the report before you is not to approve that change. That has to be made by full council, but it's to seek your approval to take it to full council for a consideration to be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions of the members? Any comments? Councillor Jones.
Yes, I fully approve the recommendation under 7.1. Having experienced these applications several times, particularly in the last administration, it does cause problems, not only for officers and members, but for the individual concerned, because there is this gap then before the case can be dealt with. And I think that, you know, we've got the safeguard there with the Public Protection Housing Manager, Trading Standards, the Licensed Manager, consulting with the Chair or Vice Chair, Planning and the Head of Legal Services, determine the applications to re-license the drivers and vehicles made up to 3 days after the expiry. And I think that will then overcome, Chair, all the issues that we've had in the past.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Anybody else got a comment? Got a proposer for the...
I'll move the recommendation, Chair.
We've had a move on second there. Can we put it to the vote, please? So, thank you very much. That's carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item number 10. Any other business deemed urgent by the Chair? I haven't any. So thank you very much for giving my first planning meeting an easy session. I hope you all like this in the future. Thank you very much.